Google bidding $6 billion for coupon website Groupon. That, according to All Things Digital, sister site of the Wall Street Journal. That's a lot of coupon for $6 billion, but is it worth it? We'll discuss that right here, right now on Digits. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Simon Constable. Joining me on the set, we got Peter Kafka from All Things Digital. Thanks for joining us. And Peter, this story broke by your colleague, Kara Swisher, colleague boss. It's a lot of money. Is it worth it?
Well, we'll figure that out eventually. Google can certainly afford it. They've got $33 billion in cash. They throw off tons of cash, so it's really fairly easy for them to finance. They don't have to finance it. It gets them in, if they do it, if it goes through, it gets them into a business they haven't been able to crack, and that would be the value for Google. They've been trying to figure out how to get into local advertising for years. Everyone has on the web, and they really haven't. Groupon seems to have cracked the code.
Now, when acquisitions are made, they frequently fail. Yep. I mean, that's just, no matter what industry you're in, they fail for a number of reasons, culture being one of them, fit and everything like that. If they haven't gotten into this business successfully, doesn't that indicate that maybe this won't be a great fit?
It could be. All the logical reasons why a deal like this could fail. In this case, Google is obviously a very tech-savvy company, and they really pride themselves on their engineering talent.
And rightly so. They have a lot of great engineering
talent.
They're
very good at it. And Groupon is not really a tech company. I mean, it works on the internet, uses Twitter and Facebook, but really it's a sales operation. These guys go out and find local merchants and get them to buy Groupon deals, which they then distribute on the web. It's pretty traditional business. It's something Google really has stayed away from for a long time.
It's very like the back of newspapers where you got the coupon, you run down to your local supermarket and get stuff like that. So that isn't very techy. Do you foresee clashes happening between management of the unit and management of the company?
We'll see. I mean, Google spent $750 million buying AdMob to get into mobile advertising, and the guy who ran that has already left the company. So you never really know on a deal like this.
You never really know, and $6 billion is a lot of money. Let's go out to Dan Gallagher on the West Coast here with Market Watch. Dan, I understand the stock is falling. How far is it down now? This is Google stock I'm talking about, and what are investors saying?
Well, they're down a little over 3% this morning. That it's not so much a panic sell-off, but there's worries with Google that this is a company that kind of goes in and out of showing whether it's going to be disciplined fiscally or not. When it bought YouTube a few years back for about a little over 1.5 billion, that was a big deal at the time, and it was especially big because YouTube didn't have any really clear business and revenue opportunities. They built some on there now. Groupon has clearly, they have revenue, they've got some established business going on, but $6 billion for a company that's been around 2 years and has $500 million in annual revenue, it could be seen as pretty high, and I think there's some concern among investors about how much Google is paying on this.
Now, is this a sign of froth out there in the mergers and acquisitions market? I saw a comment, I think, on your story about this that suggested that. What do you think?
It's possible. What's unclear here is, Google's at this really high price. Are they bidding against somebody for this? Is that why the price has gone high? Somebody that we haven't seen, whose name has been mentioned? It's hard to imagine.
And the answer to that question, right, is we know they've been bidding. They've been racking up investments that value them at $1 billion or $2 billion. Yahoo supposedly offered $2 or $3 billion a couple weeks ago. So they've clearly been bidding against other folks, and I think that makes sense.
Sure. But of course, can anybody go as high as $6 billion is the question. At $6 billion, you're really, I don't think Yahoo could even think of going that high, and Facebook and anybody else, it's, it could be argued that this is a price set to try to get this deal closed.
And we'll find out if there is indeed a winner's curse in due time. Thank you very much, Dan Gallagher with Market Watch out in San Francisco. We turn now to Julia Angren, who's going to join us on the set. Now, when you're doing your online shopping this holiday season, you're likely going to be tracked by advertisers. Likely, though, there may be a way around that in the future thanks to Firefox, which is by Mozilla. Julia's going to tell us all about that. What is Mozilla planning with Firefox that's going to allow you to get away without being tracked?
Tracking is my favorite topic.
It is because it's privacy. It's always frightening to have you on to talk about this.
I know, I'm here to scare you. So basically the story today is about how there's growing interest in this idea of a do not track mechanism. And up until now, no one's been able to figure out how you do the equivalent of do not call, because with do not call, you put your phone number on a list and it's very easy. But how do you put your computer on a list and say don't track this computer? It's not so simple. So Firefox and some other people have been looking into ways to build it into the browser so that your web browser, when you're using Firefox, would literally send a message saying, do not track me. And then all the people who receive that message would have to agree not to track you. Now, so far, no one's agreed to do that, but we're expecting an FTC report this week that will urge a do not track mechanism. There's a House hearing on Thursday urging do not track. So there's growing momentum for this
and it's
to
kind
happen.
of an elegant solution, right? I mean, you literally have, I'm sure it's technically difficult, but you have your browser say, stop tracking me, and it's an opt-out that regular people could actually use. And people who use Firefox, right, are a little bit on the geekier side. It's still sort of it's not early adopter, it's been out for years, but it's not your standard browsers. They're the folks who are more likely to adopt something like this.
Yeah, I mean, Firefox also, it's worth pointing out, is the only one that's a non-profit, that's not ad-supported, right? So Microsoft and Google are both basically in the ad business.
Didn't a few months ago Mozilla start looking at doing something like this, and they stopped that effort because of pressure? Who was the pressure from?
So it's interesting that that although I just said Mozilla is a non-profit that doesn't have as much pressure, they are also pressured by the ad industry, and they do get like the vast majority, 86% of their revenue comes from Google, from a search advertising deal. So they also get pressure from advertisers about features in their browser, and they were planning to put in a feature that was actually not as dramatic as this do not track, but that would help limit tracking. And one advertising executive at a company called Better Advertising called up and said that he thought that this was going to cause some legitimate problems he was concerned about. He thought that it would force advertisers to use sneakier techniques, and that is true. That like with all of these issues, if everybody has to agree to comply, then what's going to happen is there are going to be some bad actors who don't agree to comply, and they're.
What percent of internet users do you think care about this stuff? What percent of users do you think are interested in a product like this? 5%? 3%?
I don't know. It's really hard for me to tell. I also can't. My emails are filled with people who are like, I want this, and so I have this skewed vision that there's like a huge demand for it.
I guess it's 5.
Is it very quickly, because we haven't got long on this segment, on the do not call list, not everybody signs up for do not call. Is it going to be like that? It's just a nice thing to have. I know I sign up for do not call.
I mean, actually, a lot of people have signed up for do not call. Yeah, I think it's a huge number. I don't have it in front of me, but I think that if do not track was easy, you probably would see a really big adoption of it.
Okay, and we shall see. And thank you very much, Julia Angwin of the Wall Street Journal. Read more about that on WSJ.com. We turn now to Richard Branson, who is unveiling an iPad app magazine, or magazine app, I should say, on the iPad. And Peter, you were at the event where this was unveiled. It's $2.99 apparently.
It's the digital world, so they actually unveil it at the iTunes store the night before, and they have a press conference saying, look what came out several hours ago. It's the
so tell us about this. It's a bit complicated, right?
It's a bit complicated, but it's really a lot like other iPad magazine apps. The difference here is there's no physical magazine.
On the screen now we have the instruction manual. Tell us about the instruction manual.
I would ignore the instruction manual because it's more complicated than it needs to be. I would just get in there and start monkeying around. You'll find video and some interesting sound and some interesting visual stuff they've done. But if you played with any other iPad magazine, one for Wired or Esquire, etc., it's going to look pretty familiar. The big difference is there is actually no paper magazine equivalent for this.
And it's only $2.99, but you can avoid that by going straight to the iTunes store because that's where it all is. And we got to wrap there. Thank you very much, Peter Kafka, All Things Digital. I'm Simon Constable, and that's it. That's Digits for now. I'll be back at 4 with the News Hub. Have a great afternoon.